Welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream with live peoples, live chat. And it's recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I'm working in the Johanna Basford Christmas, which I've pinned shut now. Christmas colouring, festive colouring book. And because I want to turn the pages around so it's easy for my hand, I've kind of folded it in a way that's not going to damage the book. Now these are perforated pages, so if you wanted you could take them out, but there's a couple that are double-sided, so you really need them together. So, and it's not A4, so you can't put it in a sleeve unless you've got some big sleeve, plastic sleeves. So I want to be able to turn it, so because I need to be able to just move my hand a little bit, because my hands are really bad at the moment. So I just need to be able to just stroke the page very carefully, and this is going to allow me to turn that and not particularly get in the way of anything else. I've got my trusted little tablespoon of water and a damp, it's the one I've used the other day, but there's not going to be a lot of colour wasted, so I'm using the same baby white because I'm a tight Yorkshire lass. I bought a few more riggers. I found the Graduate Daily Round riggers number 1 and number 2, and then I've gone back to the liners, the Series 55, 50 and the 10-0 liner, and that's given me a nice, if you wet them first they should sit in order, and that's given me quite a nice array of points because there's some fine spaces and there's some bigger spaces, so I might even go on maybe a little bit bigger on that one. I might get the 3 out. I think I bought a 3 and a 5. We'll have a look at that later. So I'm going to do this first. This will probably be done in probably this one, I think. Yes, this is a new one, a number 1. So I've got my trusted palette with my pale colours from lemon all the way around to mid-green, and then I've got my 2 phthalo colours which are very vibrant, and they're the reason I bought the book, because I love the bright colours. And these are all liquid Hydrus, Dr. Martin's pH Hydrus, that are a liquid watercolour, and you shake them a little bit, but a drop goes quite a long way. There's probably about 2 or 3 drops in here now because I re-wet them every time. Apart from this morning, I've just sprayed them very, very carefully with a very fine mist, hardly any water, just a very fine mist, and that's just wet the palette, and so it's reconstituted them all. And I have a damp brush, but I like working with them from dry because you get some nice watercolour effects. So I'll zoom in and then we'll make a start. So all I'm doing every time is dipping into here, dipping into there. I find my paintbrushes don't roll about if I leave them in here. I dip into here and I twist, and that's giving me a damp brush, and that's just enough to keep this damp brush going right round. But this probably is going to take longer than I normally work, because if you work wetter it's quicker. This is quite a longer kind of way to do it, but I want those lovely watercolour effects with these vibrant colours because I think they'll look quite good. So I shall zoom in and we will start. I think I did test it with the sooty. And it does like my red nail varnish and sooty for some reason. Just see if we can just go get that a little bit better. Yep, that's going to be. So I'm going to start and move this slightly out of the way. I'm going to start on here and work up. No, I'm not. I'm going to start here and work down. So we've got reds and poinsettias, so we've got reds and greens and holly berries. So I think I'm going to do I'll probably do I want an orangey red for the bow? Oh no, I'm going to do the leaves first. So we know these here are mistletoe, and they're a fairly pale green, but so if I do vivid greens for the holly, I'll do the holly leaves first. Yes, I'm going to do the holly leaves, and I'm going to go out. That's what I've changed my mind. Sorry about that. So I'm going to use the very fine, the 50, because I want to be able to stroke in here and get a really nice watercolour effect. So that means I'm going to do this one first. And I'm going to put this paper on top just so I don't damage what I'm going to do, because I have a tendency to lean on things. But I've had a lot more problems with my hands, so I've got to have everything very easy. Cracking your elbow doesn't help either. On the corner of a drawer. So which green do I want? You have a bit of a practice. I did like that very deep green that I made, but I don't know if I've got enough. But what I want to happen is I want this effect. Oopsie. So it goes from dark to light. So actually that is the wrong brush for this, because it's too big. And again, if you want to practice that till you get it right, that's another way. So I'm actually going to go to the 10-0, which is a very fine small brush, and just a touch of colour. Oops, and I've got to be in this particular angle, because this angle is going to let me just gently slide that paintbrush away from myself with very little movement on my joints, because that's very important for me. And I don't think that's dark enough, but I quite like it. Let me just have a look. I'll just have a go with this one. So if we were going to go for the fake colour, this is phthalo green. See, I'm terrible. I don't like the fake colours. Not when it's a leaf. So we're going to have to probably make a different green, because I'm not happy with that. So I'm not going to mix with the riggers, because I want to keep those really sharp, and mix the colour with an older brush. Either an older brush or a cheaper brush. I think these were about £6 for a couple of pounds from the pound shop. But when you wet them, they go to a fairly decent point. But they're a few pounds. So I'm going to put some... I've got the wrong yellow there, but never mind. I'm going to go in the corner here. And there was some dark there, but there isn't going to be enough here, I don't think. So I'm being very naughty, just touching into that cobalt blue. And that's given me a really nice bright green. So again, I've got a damp brush. I may as well touch the end of the paintbrush, because I don't want very much. And then we'll see what that does. It's almost the same green as that one. So I'm going to put a touch more into there. And I'm also going to get another brush and make a green with gamboge, because that's got a hint. Gamboge is the really, really either tangerine colour, you know, a pale yellow, or a pale orange, or a deep orangey yellow. It's in between. So I've put some more phthalo blue in there, but when I put this into here, I'm going to get a really rich green, because that's given me where's my 10-0 gone? That's it. That's given me, and again, just touch the end of the brush, there's tons of colour. I like that colour, but I actually like that for the poinsettias rather than the holly. Now in the corner here is like an olive colour, so we're failing fast at the moment. I like that colour for that. And this is sometimes what, if you want the page to look really good, sometimes you have to play about with colour. Sometimes you have to think about colour. So I think actually I like that one for the holly and that one for the berries. So I've changed my mind. But I'm going to reconstitute this because I don't think I've got enough to get all the way around. So I'm just going to dip into there, and that's going to lighten this one up. And I can just very carefully go in there and get some cobalt blue and make that kind of a deeper colour. So now if I test that one, so I just want the tiniest amount. And that's very near to what it was. So that was the original, so I'm just slightly out, but I actually like that one, so I'm going for that one. And there's tons of colour on this brush, so I'm going to use the brush. This is how little colour that you need for this. So I've got my 10-0 liner, and I've got some colour on this brush that I've mixed. I've pulled quite a decent brush out to mix actually. So again, just another practice. And there's too much colour on there. You want really the tiniest amount. So I'm just going to touch that and do that again and see how we get. Because I want this to look really nice this time. And I'm not in a rush. Yes, that's quite a nice gradient. So that will give me a quite nice natural highlight. And again, I needed a couple of practices to know how much I need. Right. So I'm going to put that brush down. And I'm just going to start in the middle and stroke up and down very gently, and that should give me a natural highlight. So a lovely, very smooth, almost smooth highlight, and that's done. Don't have to go back to it, don't have to go over it, it's done. So again, damp brush, just the tiniest amount, and you can either go across that way or along one side. If you go along one side and you get the same feel, you end up with the same highlight, if that makes sense. So again, a damp brush, just a touch, probably too much there, touch twice. You see, you've got to remember what you're doing. So again, I just want the tiniest amount, and I've got a drip on the edge of the brush there, so I've got to be a bit careful, and just tease that colour out. And you can't stop, you've just got to keep going and going, and you should get a really nice highlight. So clean the brush, tease the water off, and touch the brush. Now if you vary the amount on the end, you vary the highlight. But in theory, if you try to do the same every time, you get the same highlight. So this way, I want this highlight to be the same. Now I went over there, but that's fine, because in theory I'm going to be at the same space, the same shade the next time I go up. So that was quite easy, and to make it so easy for myself, I'm just going to turn that over, and again just got that lovely natural sweeping motion. And because I've been getting a little bit too, now if you want to put a little bit extra on, because we're going to start in, make sure you don't have a hair on the end. This is one of the finest brushes that you can get, one of the smallest ones. And just until you get to a natural, you just need to tease all that colour out. And you get your natural highlight. And as long as you follow that all the way through, if you wanted it deeper, you could do it deeper, but we don't want to do this one deeper because we've already started. Oops. You see, I got too much colour on it, so I didn't get the natural highlight. And you can't take it off, it's not very forgiving, unless we do this one all dark this way. But a good idea would be to photocopy it and then have a go. And I'm dipping the brush every time. It's a bit too much on this one as well, but it's a bit bigger leaf, so the bit bigger section you've got, and you can tell if the brush is too wet, if there's too much paint, because you don't get your natural highlight. Now this, I want the tiniest amount because it's a tiny space. So I've barely touched that if I want that highlight. I actually didn't get the highlight, but if I turn that really carefully, oops, sorry, we are that way around. There's a little bit of a highlight on that one. So I'm going to do all these leaves, all the holly leaves that are that particular shape. And again, just the tiniest amount of colour because it's a tiny space. Just start in the middle and tease out. And you have to dip your brush every time. Now there was a bit much on that one, but we'll see if it will do it. A little bit. And I'm barely tapping the end of that paintbrush. Still again, you see there's far too much on there. These are small spaces. The bigger patterns, the bigger the rigor, and the more, same amount of water, but the more colour you need. In fact, there's too much on that one, I could tell. I'm barely touching the tip. Sorry about that, the puppy's woken up, puddling around. I'm not going to do that one because I'm going to do this one. Sandline, just pull that daughter for me. Thank you. Feel any better? Thank you. Oh, I've taken. It's alright, Alfie's just opened the door and let all the cold air in. Again, I touched it twice. I saw myself do that. This is a very tiny space. It's a really small space. I've got some water on the bottom of there. So again, that's why it's a good idea to do a photocopy first. Because you can work out how easy things are to do. But I love working like this. It gives you a really nice watercolour effect. And you can do, this is the same technique for doing Bible pages, those really thin, fine pages. And again, you're just stroking that colour in, so there's no pressure on your hand whatsoever. And it's just the tiniest amount. Now that one would be darker, so I'm just actually going to, I've got, even though I did just touch it, I'm going to go with that one there. So it just varies the leaves a little bit and gives quite a nice effect. And there's a little bit of a faff to start with, you know, it's a very slow process, you just keep going with it. But there's no going back or scribbling back over things, which would drive me crackers, I have to say. I don't think I like these leaves that are half and half, so I might actually draw those in, but I'm going to do this one next, here. And I'm just barely touching that and then stroking that in. Oopsie. There wasn't quite enough there, but I could make that a very pale leaf if I wanted. See how the next one goes. Yeah, and again that's gone quite pale. And your baby white will get wetter because you're taking off. Oops, too much on that one. I'm going to do this one as well. So that looks quite odd now. So I'll do this bottom one. I'm going to have to go over those other two because I don't like that. It would have been nice if I'd have been able to do that with all of them, but I couldn't. So is that a leaf? I think it is. You have a very tiny space. I'm just going to turn that round. And I'm going to touch this one. And it may look okay, it may not. I'll have to see. Silly. But I do like working in this very, very simple, quiet way. I'm just going to put that up to there because I want that to be quite pale. So it's okay, I can live with that. It's got a pale middle, but you know, it's a leaf. And I'm going to do this one next. So I could have, when I've mixed this colour, just thrown this paintbrush into the I could have just thrown it away in the washing pot. I think there's too much there, and if you're not sure, you just start scratching across. That probably was about right because I paused. So the baby white will get saturated because every time you're touching it, you are taking away water out of the brush, so you have to probably squeeze it every half an hour or so. Squeeze all the water out and start again. I'll get another baby wipe. It doesn't take long before you get in the swing of how much colour to use. You do have to concentrate, but there is no pressure on your hand at all. Now I've had a lot of painkillers today, so actually I'm a lot better than yesterday. But we're not going to just talk about yesterday. It wasn't fun. And I've given up, but never mind. So that's quite a pale one, and it's at the bottom actually, if you look at it. So if you'd have thought about it, that colour could have been darker than the others, but if the light's coming from underneath, I can do it that way. I'm not probably thinking too much like that with this colour page, but I did want to kind of, that's quite a big one, that one, and I think I've got quite a lot of colour on there, so, oh, I fibbed, it didn't. I've got to leave that one a little bit now because it's going to be too wet to touch again. This is how I do it on the thinnest page, and this is how I work when I'm watercolouring napkins. It's this dry. I think there was a bit too much there, yes, you can tell there's a bit, maybe too much. It's a little bit time consuming this way, but you are getting blended watercolour effects without any water. But because it's a colour book, you're quite enjoying yourself actually. You know, I don't want this to be over quick. You know, I want to enjoy the process of going through colouring this book. Just want to tease that colour out there a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put that to one side for a moment. I'm going to get my pen out, which is the same size as the 20, my rotring pens. And this is an isograph 0.25. There is a 0.18, but the 25 is quite fine. And what that allows us to do is, if I trace, and of course this is all dry now straight away, I shall trace this leaf we have a line here, and then we have a line there, a line there, a line there, a line there, a line there. So I've got to train myself to work in the opposite way. So they all look the same. Oh, sorry, I was off camera. And this is permanent Indian ink, so once it's dried, that should be fine. So I need to get to a nice, comfortable position for doing this. I probably could have gone with a 0.20, 0.18 actually. Let me have a look. It might be too thick. I think this has got ink in it. Have a look, see if I've got enough ink. There should be enough ink in there. They're normally very good for getting going, but I think this one's a bit stiff. No, it's not going to do it. So I don't want to spend ages doing that. Did I like? Is there a big difference? There is a smidgen difference, but I'm just going to go for it. Can't really tell. And again, this one, you just got to kind of, yeah, it's because this is a finer drawing. And again, I've got to twist them around so they're comfortable. So I've got that one there. And I think we've done it all with those. What about the outside ones? Yeah, now there could be a bark alert because I've ordered 2 things from Amazon with next day delivery. So let's have a look at this one. Because I've got to change the way I paint because I just can't do this anymore. And again, I was going to do this backward motion. That will not do because I will make a pig's ear of it. So I have to twist it round so that my hand can just gently swing out, gently. Sorry about the grumble pants. And there's one here, so again very carefully twist out to here. And I think I've got them all now. So again, a few minutes just to let this Indian ink dry, which I'm sure it will. But I've got a lot. Sorry, I do apologise for that. And I'm going to actually put my pen back, which is quite amazing. The fab for drawing and then colouring in, because of course it's Indian ink. So I'm just going to pop that back on there to keep that nice and safe. So we have a grumble alert. If he carries on, I'm going to have to ask my daughter to have him upstairs. So again, I can do this one here. And the brush is almost dried on here, but says she. I don't think it has. Just have a look. If you're not sure, just have a practice. Yeah, it's looking a bit. I've just dipped the end to activate it, and that's made the colour. You've just got to check it's the same consistency, and it isn't. But it might be down there. Yeah. So I now know where to touch the brush now. So again, I'm just going to touch the brush here. And then just see if, I could actually practice on this one. Practice on this one. Yeah, that's not too bad. So thanks for stopping by. I hope everybody's having a pleasant afternoon or morning. I need that little bit more. To get that nice highlight. But I don't want too much because I won't be able to tease the colour out. So in theory I should be able to get all those leaves, those holly leaves on that page from one paintbrush of colour, and I think that's quite amazing. I'm just going to do that little one because there's not going to be much variation on that one. And if you make a pig's ear of it, you can always go back and put a little bit more colour in if you want to. So again, I'm going to turn that round. And just touch that and tease that colour out. And if you make a tiny mistake on one of these, it's not the end of the world. It's going to be quite a full page, so you're not going to probably notice one little bloop. I'm at the wrong angle really for this. I'll tease that colour out. So my daughter's not at school today because she's been poorly all night. It's a long time since I've been up with a little one all night. And I'm going to do that one as well because and you can go over it if you want and put a shadow of the leaves. So we've got this one here next. So this is quite a quiet, almost boring way of working. It's very, very... Oops, I missed the highlight on that one. I did it too dark. Never mind. It's a very peaceful way of working. I think I'm going to just do this particular... Sometimes when you start something like this, it'll come out okay because it's the same. I mean, these are quite small spaces, these. Very tiny spaces. There's no reason why I can't do the whole... I just want a little bit of something under there. So that will give me enough to do that one and that one. Just need to take that stark white off. So again, this is a really peaceful way to work. Hardly any mess. I'm just going to do this top one because that is a really tiny diddy space. I'm not even going to attempt to get a highlight in there. But you could use this method, which I'll show in a minute, for a bigger space. So like these leaves here are going to have a different sized highlight. They're not going to be I just thought that would look quite nice. It looks like, and there's no blending, you just, well, you're blending the damp brush. That's what you're doing. Almost works in the reverse of the chameleon pens. The chameleon pens, you have the toner, the mixer, pale. And here, so you get from light to dark, whereas here you start dark and the damp brush is making it get paler and paler. But it works in exactly the same way as the chameleon pens, and once you start you can't stop. Exactly the same as chameleon pens, but in the reverse. So the chameleon pens, you would start palest on the outside and go in, but I'm doing the darkest in the middle, and that's why I can use those pens, because they're very easy. And if I'd have won the thing yesterday, I would have bought some, but I didn't, so I can't. I can't afford them, so I'm just going to put a little bit of a highlight on that one. So that doesn't look quite balanced, but we've done all the holly tree, all holly leaves. Right, so again, all the pressure in your hand is on the end of that brush, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do this. And I did need a bigger brush actually, so I'm going to just forget that one. And my brush has been sat with its top against there, so it's not a happy bunny. So I'm going to use a slightly bigger brush, and I'm going that way this time. And again, I'm just going to have a bit of a practice. Yes, it's the right size brush. Having a practice is very good, either on a bit of photocopy paper or photocopying this image and having a real good play. So what I want to do is, and again this colour might have gone now, I want to go right across the middle and then up and out. And turn it round. And dampen the brush. Then I want to go right across there and out. And I do have a fairly damp brush. So right across the middle and out. Turn that round carefully. So I've got that nice sweeping motion. Dampen the brush, pick up some colour, and again you're just picking up a little bit extra colour because you're a little bit bigger than you were. But this is kind of drying out on me now. But I've done quite a few hollies. So again, tease that colour up there. And we have one there. Again, I know there's a lot of colour on this because as soon as I touch it in the water, I get a bit of green. So I'm just going to practice this one because this is a bit wetter. It's too wet, is that? Because the end of the brush is now wet. I've wet it again, so I don't need a lot of colour. So I'm going to go over there and stroke that colour up. There wasn't enough on that. I think I've possibly got to the end of the colour now. And tease that colour up there. Carefully turn that around. And then we can, and this again is still off this brush, tease that colour up into there and give it a nice highlight. And if you're not happy, you can go back over that one. Again, I didn't practice this one, so this is where's it gone? There it is. So again, straight across and up. Oopsie. And this ensures that you don't go over your lines. Now that's a little bit wetter than I'd wanted, however, it's a bigger space and this particular paper can stand a drop more water than others can. Oopsie. So again, you're teasing that colour up and out, and there's enough to go backwards actually. a little bit flat, but there's a tiny highlight on it. Again, just teasing that colour out. It's probably too much colour on these actually, but there's a bit of a highlight difference, so it's fine. You shouldn't notice too much. There's one next to it there which needs to be done too. That's a better consistency, that. Sorry about turning it round every 5 seconds, but it's the only way I can work now, and I've just lost my leaf. Thought it was in the middle. I've lost my leaf. I just lost my leaf. It was in the middle somewhere. Oh, maybe I finished it off. Oh, there it is. It's there, look. There. And again, I like to do the same leaf over and over to get them all finished and out of the way. So then you're done with that particular colour and with that particular... Yeah, I think we've got them all on there. So I hope everybody's enjoying themselves. So now I've got... I had the paler green, didn't I? I had the pale olive colour. And I had this colour. And I made that colour for the poinsettias. That's what colour I made for the poinsettias. So we could do these because they're quite big. So I'm probably going to have a bigger brush for that. So is this colour going to be the... Yeah, I think this is going to be the... Oh, it's a bit bright, is that one? It's a little bit bright, is that one? So I can't remember why I made that one now. That was for the poinsettias, wasn't it? I like that one. I like that one. I've missed a holly leaf there. I think I'm going to do the poinsettias this colour. And then I've got an olive here to do. Olive might be too boring. Right, so I'm going back to a 5-0 brush. And I think I'm going to use that colour. So I just want the tiniest amount on the end, and away we go. Ow, sorry, I just my hands are not particularly well at the moment. We'll do that one. Yes, it's the wrong size, is that? It has to be a smaller one. So we take the 10-0, and if we stroke that into there, tiniest movements, which is quite nice for me because I can just do tiny movements. I've got quite a nice highlight on that one. It's probably not the right colour for this, but I actually quite like this. I like this I'm going to leave that for a second and I'm going to just tease this one out. I should have gone with a slightly bigger brush. 50 is going to be slightly better. So I'm going to do the stem and take that up there. Gee whiz, I'm having a lot of trouble holding this paintbrush today. Oh, gee whiz. This could be a short video today. I knew my hands were bad yesterday, but I thought they were a little bit better today. So again, just stroking that colour through there to the palest pale, just to get rid of that stark white. And again in there. Again, like the chameleon pens, once you start, you can't really stop because you don't get that wonderful blend. That one's a slightly bigger brush and I struggled there, so again, oh no, it was that one, wasn't it? I'm going to try this one. This is, oh no, that's number 2. Try number 1. I have a 20 somewhere. That's quite a nice brush. Let me find the 20. Oh, that's a 0. Yes, it's a 0, but it's a 0 in the 55, and that's different. That's a 20 in, oh, that's a series 55 as well. Let's have a look at the difference. It's a little bit bigger, and I wanted it a bit smaller. I did buy some new paintbrushes, but again, if I can't paint today, I'm going to have to stop even painting like this. So this is a bigger brush, so we should be able to tease that colour up there. So all the things I bought, I was going to do a small haul video, but I think it's going to have to go back, so I can just nip a bit of that water out of there. So I'm going to have to change the way I paint because, oops, this is a little bit wet, this. So I didn't get a natural highlight on that one, but I should get one on this one. Sometimes it's quite nice to have a different one. So welcome to Bunny's Designs. Again, this is a live stream, but it's very quiet today. I'm in a quiet mood. Ow, I'm in a quiet mood today. My hands are not working at all, but the alternative is to watch daytime television. I think not. Not that there's anything wrong with daytime television, but it's not my thing. So again, start on there. I didn't get a natural highlight on that because this brush is too big. I thought I found a 20. Yeah, I did. I don't know why I'm not using a 20. I think it's a 55. Yeah. I'm going to have to go back to this brush. What was I saying? So this is a live stream with live people. Everybody's very quiet this morning, but it is early, I think. and it's recorded for YouTube, new stream, for people to watch at their leisure. Now it's looking all green at the moment, but I'm sure when we get these vibrant poinsettias up, it'll brighten up a bit. Yep, I have definitely got to change the way I paint. Even though all the pressure's on that bendy brush, moving my hand at the moment is not going to be an option. So that's going to be a shame. For me, not probably for anybody else. It's going to be a shame for me because I'll have to sit and watch daytime television. But I have a secret trick up my sleeve. But we'll have to see. Have to see what happens. Hi Kingo, welcome to Bunny's Designs. I'm in the Johanna Basford Johanna's Christmas colour book, and I'm doing my the thing I designed for disabled people that couldn't use pens and pencils. Just teasing colour with a little soft brush, so there's no pressure on your hands at all. It's all in this bendy brush, and all you have to do is just move your hand very gently. But that's proving a bit difficult for me to do. I feel like I've been I have this thing about Arnold Schwarzenegger twisting on my joints. It's either him or a small child, and it's him today. So Mr. What's it? Is trying to pull my thumb out of its joint. Or it feels like that. Bring back the small boy. So it's not a fast way of working, but it's very fast. So I hope everybody's well. It's a bit nippy here at the UK, but it's clear and bright. Yes. He's now trying to get my shoulder out of its joint. Oh dear, dear, dear. So I'm going to just finish these mistletoe leaves. That's my wonky chair. Sometimes you can get quite a nice highlight going on without too much effort. Ah, dear me. Oops, you've got to be careful that the page doesn't move. If you're not feeling particularly confident, you can squidge it this way and you'll still get a highlight, but it won't be as blended, it won't be as fine. And this is a bit larger brush, a bit larger leaf, this. But if you just stroke very gently, oopsie, and you can't stop, and it's like the chameleon pens, you can't stop, you just have to keep going. And you get quite a nice blended effect. I've got a little one here. I wanted that to be quite dark in there because the little robin's in there. So I wanted that to be quite dark, but it's a nice way of working. There's no mess, there's nothing to spill apart from my tablespoon of water, which is in a little tray. This will clear that. And I'm dipping into it every time I go back, every time I've finished a leaf. Now, I'm just going to go down there. That's going to be a bit wet, I think. I'm just going to go down there. Just want a really deep highlight in there. And then tease that colour up there. And actually that could be darker than this one because it's behind it. So again, you start to think. Now, don't always go back over them straight away, but if I go back over that one, just make that a little darker so we can so tell that's behind that one. So let's go up there. So if I pull this back out a bit, you can see the little bit we've done. And there's a little bit of highlight through here and a little bit of highlight, so it's quite nice. But that's an hour and a minute, so I'm going to stop this particular video. This is end of part 1. And anybody listening on YouTube, thank you for joining me. And everybody on stream, I will be doing part 2 in just a minute. So thanks for watching.